kind of in the moment. I'd like you to close your eyes. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to imagine who you want to be. If you could snap your fingers, it's the magic therapist question. If you could snap your fingers and be everything you want to be right this minute, what would you look like? Would you be different than you are physically? Would you be taller, thinner, shorter, stockier, muscular? Would you be a different ethnicity? Would you have a different hair color? Would you be younger or older? What point in life would you be? If you could go back to a point in your life or forward to a point in your life, what age would you be? What time frame would you live in? Would you live in modern day? Would you live back in the Middle Ages? What would you be? Who would that person be, and what would they look like? What would they do with their life? What kind of career would they have? What sort of goals and dreams and ambitions would they have? Does this person that you're envisioning look anything like you? And now what I want you to imagine is who you really are. And why is it that those two images match or don't match? Why? Why are you not happy with the person that you are right now, sitting here in this room today? With all the wrinkles or no, the hair color you have, the weight you are, the family you have, the career you have, the car you have, the house you have. Are you happy with that? Or do you want something different? And if you want something different, why? And this is the biggest question right now that you need to be asking yourself, because if you don't know your why, how are you going to help somebody else reach their why? If a person cannot look at you, and you can go ahead and open your eyes now, but if a person cannot look you in the eye, if one of your friends, family members, your child, if they cannot look you in the eye and know who you are because you know who you are, and they see you reflected in your eyes, how are you going to help them? When I was a mental health counselor, I had in my outpatient program, I had a lot of folks with addictions come through my door. I taught an evening program, so most of them were functional. They had jobs. They had their family life. They came and went as they wanted to. They could have left my IOP and gone to the liquor store, or to their drug dealer's house, or to the restaurant and binged on food. Because addiction isn't just about drugs and alcohol. Addiction could be other people. The codependence. Addiction can be to food. That's one that we deal with as coaches all the time. Some of us ourselves, and not just with the people that we help. But if I don't know my why, if my why, which my why is I need to be healthy. I must be healthy so that when my child looks me in the eye, he sees a healthy person that's not going to disappear, that will be here tomorrow. In fact, I'd like to introduce my son right now. But he's not expecting that. Misha is in 7th grade right now. And Misha started a club called the No Place for Hate Club. At his school. When we were living in St. Louis, we were about 15 minutes away from Ferguson. Living in a suburban neighborhood in which kids from that area had been bused that year into the school which Misha went to because their school lost their accreditation. It's Florissant, Ferguson area up in North St. Louis. And these kids were being bused into our school district area, and Misha was in the No Place for Hate Club at that school at that time. And when he came here, there was none at his school in Elk Grove. So he started the club here. Because it doesn't matter if we're in Ferguson or St. Charles in St. Louis, or Elk Grove, or Sacramento, California, but there's still people out there who don't know themselves and look at other people and have that separation. If I hate myself, how can I help other people love themselves? And that's really the biggest question when you're forming people. When you go out of this room today and you leave and you go back to your house and you go to your computer or you go to your friend's house or you go wherever it is that you go in your community, even at the grocery store, you are a product of your product. Not just a product of the Beachbody product, but you're a product of your product. You're a product of everything you put into yourself. You're a product of every food you eat. You're a product of every exercise that you do. You're a product of the thoughts that you put into your head. Because the thoughts are the things that will guide you. The physicality, that happens. But it's the mindset that is the difference. And if I don't lead with a leadership mindset, if I don't show people the person that I can be, I can't help them reach their own goals. We can go ahead and start the slide presentation now. Actually, there was a slide before that. Did it not come on? Did it not come on? There, you got it. So, okay. So, who am I? I am Jonni Santschi. I have a ton of letters after my name that I paid a lot of money and still owe a lot of money on. I have a master's in community counseling psychology. I have a national counseling certification, and I didn't put other stuff up here. I've been a certified teacher, secondary school teacher here in California and Arizona. I have a National Academy of Sports Medicine certificate. I'm a certified personal trainer. I'm a Beachbody coach. I'm an insanity instructor. I have a lot of things that I've paid for, a lot of work that I've put into myself. But some days is a struggle for me to remember who I am. I wake up some mornings and I struggle with that. And the way that I bring myself back is I remember that my son would not be as successful as he is at the age of 12. Multiply that to 24, to 32, to 64. However long he lives, that success comes because he has had a model for that success. And if I don't show that model, how is that going to play out for him? And how is that going to play out for all the lives that I touch and the people that I work with? When I met Shaun T on the cruise last year, I wept. Because it's a moving experience to become. And that's okay. That's wonderful. Celebrate that. Your why should make you cry. Not because it's sad, but because you have hope for your future. Remember what I said earlier this morning? You save your life so that you can help other people save their lives. That is how deep this is. This isn't just about having somebody else do P90X or teach insanity or do any of those things. Or drink your Shakeology or any of that. This is about saving lives. This is about saving your life first, though. People need to understand that process in order to get to know you. So, what forming is? Forming is organic. In other words, it grows as you grow. The person you are today, sitting here right now, isn't the person you're going to be 6 months from now, and it's not the person you're going to be 3 years from now. Hopefully that person will organically grow in a way that is beautiful. But you have that choice. It's your decision how that organic shape is going to go depending on the things that you do with your life and the direction that you go in your life. It's built over time. Remember Hank said earlier, we have to give it time. Time heals all wounds, but time also carries us through from the point at which we start a journey through to the end of that journey and into the next journey. Because remember, life isn't just about one journey. It's about several journeys that we take. Sometimes we start our journeys over again. Remember that it takes 5 times for an average customer or prospect to commit to something or to purchase something from you. 5 times of talking to them. 5 individual instances of you making a difference in their life. But think about what that means for you. I can't tell you the number of people that I had come through my outpatient program who had a desire to have a desire. But when they were met with themselves, when they had to be forced to look at themselves in a very critical way, when they broke down and cried, that was the moment at which those 5 times of meeting with themselves turned from, I have a desire to have a desire, to, I have a desire, to, I have, and I will. It means being friendly, warm, and personal, not just with other people, but with yourself. If you're not kind to yourself, if you go home every afternoon, every evening, and tell your spouse how fat you are, how ugly you are, how you're not matching up to the goals, the aspirations that you have, how you're failing in life, what are they supposed to think after a period of time? What are they supposed to say? How are they supposed to re-image that? Over a period of time, again, we are what we tell ourselves. So if I'm friendly, I'm warm, I'm personal to myself, if I tell myself I love myself, what's going to happen over time? And how is that going to project to other people? We grow relationships, not just with other people, but with ourselves. We have to build trust here first before we can build trust out there. If I don't trust myself to not overeat, if I don't trust myself not to go smoke a cigarette or, take a drink or to be with people that are hurting me in my life, if I don't trust myself to do that, how can I help other people to do that? I have to open the door for that. So forming is all of these things. Forming starts here and then goes outside. And that's what I'd like for you to really think about as you move out of here. Earlier when I was asking you, who are you? Identify with that. Find out who you are. If you don't know who you are right now and you're not happy with who you are right now, you need to ask yourself why. And then you need to answer the questions of what it is that it's going to take for you to love yourself. And you've got to think, I want to inspire people. I want someone to look at me and say, because of you, I didn't give up. Because they see that I didn't give up on myself. What is forming? Forming is learning about people's family, occupation, recreation. I'll get to M in a minute because I teach M a little bit differently. But finding out who people are, finding out who they are. Not what you think they are, but who they think they are. I could look at someone and say, I think you're an amazing person. I think you're beautiful and you're fabulous and you do all these things. And I can have all these thoughts in my head about how wonderful you are. But if you don't believe it, then it doesn't mean anything. Okay? So you need to look for their ideas about themselves. What is their family like? What do they want their family to be like? If they could snap their fingers, use the therapist. You don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to have all those letters after your name. Ask people, if you could snap your fingers and everything would be perfect, what would life look like? Family, occupation, recreation. What do they enjoy? What do they do? What do they love? What do they want to do out of it? Fit it into the 3 vital behaviors. Invite people into your world. Invite them to learn about who you are so that you can learn about who they are. A lot of times as coaches we get this we're looking outward and we're just trying to get snapshots of people's lives. Who are you? I want to know all about you. And we don't fit ourselves in there. People want to have a dialogue. They want to have a 2-way conversation. They want to have a relationship. And that's the important piece of it, is building that relationship. So it's not just about inviting people, like, oh, I'm just going to fill up this group. It's about really connecting with people and finding out who they are so that you have a relationship with them. So like Hank was saying earlier when he was talking about people 2 years down the road, you may not have even spoken to them very often in that period of time. But you've taken some notes on who they were, you've gotten to know them at least a little bit so that 2 years later you can be, hey, how are the kids? I mean, think about it. Don't you love that? Like, doesn't it surprise you every time that somebody that you didn't think knew about you rattles off your kids' names, knows little bits and pieces? Yes, Timmy's still in soccer, you know, those types of things. That's that connection with people. That's that understanding that people can have to get involved with you. So let's go to the M at this point. M, message, motivation, and money. What does that mean? Well, we take the forming, we take the family, the occupation, the recreation, their story, who they are, their why, and then we start to think about our conversion of that. What can we do to help them reach their goals? Not how can I sell them P90X. I may look at you and I may think, she would be a shoo-in for PIO. Absolutely, she would love it. I'm going to sell her PIO now. That's not, she may not even like Pilates or yoga. You got to get to know the person, you know? You've got to get to understand who that person is. So the message at that point becomes their message, not your message, but their message. So often we're like, you know, we call it puking on people in our upline. Stop puking on me. I get told that a lot by Hank. Because we get excited. We love this, right? How many of you have gotten excited before and probably admit that you've puked on people before? You've got to try this. It's the best thing in the world, but it's not my message, it's their message. It's not how I'm going to insinuate myself into their life and, you know, redirect everything. It's how can I help them? How can their message become a shared message between the two of us? Motivation. Underlying motivation. I ask people as a personal trainer sometimes, what do you want? What's your goal? I want to look better naked. Great! Surprisingly enough, that's an awesome goal. Not a bad one at all. But that's not their underlying motivation. Their underlying motivation is they just got a divorce last year and they're thinking about going back on the market again and they want to look better naked because they might get into a relationship with somebody else. Their motivation is their daughter's getting married in June and they want to be able to wear a bikini for the first time in their life on the beach because they're going to the Caribbean. Their underlying motivation is that they have not been able to move off of the couch, let alone pick up their grandchildren. And they want to be able to move so that they can engage and interact with their grandkids. Their underlying motivation could be that they are trying to get out of debt and that they've got all these bills. I'll be very raw and open with you guys right now. I've lost a house. My husband and I lost our home a few years ago. I've lost a car. I was making 6 figures and I lost these things because of poor planning, poor money management, and other things that happen in life. But I'm not going to let that stop me. My underlying motivation is that I need to keep going because that's my goal in life. I want to be, I never want that to happen again, basically. That's the goal. And then comes in the money. Now is the money. How many times have you heard $140 for Shakeology a month? That's expensive. So then you're like, I can get them in as a coach, right? Wholesale buyer, you can get 25% discount. It'll only be like $110 after taxes, right? And you're thinking in your head, that's a steal. And they're thinking, God, that's expensive. That's like $100 that I have to pay out. I don't even have $100 in my bank account. How am I going to look for that? So you've got to tie all of that together without selling things. How does that happen? Because you're not selling them a product. You are helping them identify their underlying motivation. And that's priceless. How much would you spend to do the things that you want to do in your life? How much money is it worth to you? How much money is it worth to that 65-year-old grandfather who can't get off the couch to play with his grandchildren? How much would he pay? If he had endless amounts of money, how much money would he pay for that? Because money is not the issue. Money is never the issue. It's not about the money. It's about the outcome. Your customers, your clients, your friends, your family, whoever it is that's involved with you, is not involved with you because you sold them something. They're involved with you because of what they're getting out of it in the long term. So the money becomes not even an issue anymore. There's ways of coming up with the money. Those of us who have lost homes, who have lost businesses, who have lost money, who have lost any of those things, who have lost family members or friends or any of that, I mean, when you look at those pictures, what's the most important thing out of all of that? Is it the things that you've lost or the relationships that you missed? That's the key. And really, when it comes down to it, the money, again, the money comes later. The money's secondary. It's not the issue. And that's why when we're puking on people, they see dollar signs. Even though we're seeing an end result, you've got to get them to buy in. It's got to be their buy-in, not your buy-in. So it's a quality of numbers and not a quantity. I heard someone in a 90 Days to Diamond talk, and they were from my upline. I'm not going to name names or anything. This was a couple years ago. But it made me cringe. I was on my way driving home from work, and I'm listening in my car, and they said, it's a numbers game. I wanted to throw up. I was like, oh, that's gross. A numbers game, really? I mean, it is. It is a numbers game. You have to in order to move up. If you're an emerald, you got to have 2 numbers. If you're a ruby, you got to have more numbers. Diamond, you got to have more numbers. You've got to have the numbers. But it's not a numbers game. That takes that relationship out of the picture. If you really want to form people, you need to stop thinking about the number on the scale or the number in your downline or the number in your bank account or any of those numbers. The numbers are meaningless. It's the quality of the relationships. The quality of those numbers. It's an 80-20. You guys have heard that before, right? Eat 80-20. Don't diet. Eat 80-20. What does that mean? Well, it means that 80% of the stuff that I put in my body is dense nutrition. 20%, it's not junk, but it's stuff that I enjoy maybe. A piece of chocolate cake or a glass of wine or whatever it is that I enjoy, but I'm able to do it 20% of the time and not 80% of the time. In fact, that was one of my cues for addicts. How do I know if I'm an addict? Well, if you can't do something 20% of the time and you've got to do it more, chances are you have a problem. So it's that 80-20 blend, but it's the same thing in coaching. You've got to present 80% of yourself and 20% of the product. Does that make sense? So, like Hank was talking about earlier with Facebook posts or Instagram or whatever it is that you're using, 80% of your posts should just be genuine, like, this is my day, and warm and inviting kind of stuff, you know? I mean, not that you shouldn't ever put anything that's sad or tragic or anything like that, but if your wall is filled with it, again, that's what your input in is going to be the output out. So you want to make sure that you're balancing that. So 80% of your stuff is, you know, about you, about your kids, or about, you know, the things that you do in your life. 20% of it then is, you know, Shakeology or recipes or whatever. You and your life, 20% Beachbody. Forming is, networking is not collecting contacts. Networking is about planting relationships. It's gardening. I'm gardening my friends list. Now on the alternate of, like, you know, the whole numbers game thing, one of the things that really struck me as being a beautiful statement was Stephen Covey. He mentions one of his friends, and I cannot remember who it was, but one of the MLM people that he's worked with, who talks about relationships that he's never met anyone who is an acquaintance. Everyone he's ever met is a friend. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, think about it. If everyone I meet with the intention of becoming friends, that changes the game. That means when I'm Christmas shopping in the mall and people are just nasty and sour and everything, and I'm walking through the mall like this because I'm going to meet some friends. You know? I had an incident a couple of months ago. I was rear-ended in the parking lot at the gym. And I got out, and of course, you know, you're in the moment, you're nervous, and you're scared, and you're shaking, and, you know, the first thing you want to do is, you know, get real anxious and moody and kind of, you know, irritable. I get out of the car, and I'm like, hey, it's no problem, it's fine. I mean, this person is like, what is going on here? Not that I'm accepting responsibility or that I mean, it's just, the mindset was, I'm not going to let this shake my day because it's a thing that can be fixed. Is anybody hurt? Okay, good. Let's just deal with this. Let's exchange insurances. Let's do this, you know, in a very positive way. Think about how differently those events happen in our lives when we don't meet them as an opportunity. We meet them as a catastrophe. We call it, as therapists, we call it catastrophizing. If I'm constantly catastrophizing things. Oh my God, it's gonna, and you get just so worked up in that. Again, we go back to the beginning. How is it that if I'm catastrophizing everything in my life, how is anybody going to look at what I'm doing as being positive? It won't matter if I've lost 30 pounds. They're going to look at all the bad stuff that's going on in your life. Well, you lost 30 pounds, but God, girl, you need to get it together. So it's about planting relationships. And again, it starts here. My relationship starts with me. Make friends with yourself. Have you ever thought about that before? Are you your friend? Would you want to be your friend? Would you, if you met yourself on the street, are you someone that you would want to know? And if not, why? And that's the image that you're showing everybody in your life. So what forming is not, we thought we'd throw this in there too because it's important to know what it's not. We know what it is, but we want to know what it's not. So it's not peeping on people. I could be really excited about the latest workout that's just come out. I could be really excited about my Shakeology. I could be really excited about the weight that I've lost. I could be really excited about the trip I just took or whatever. But I can't, you know, on top of people. I've got to just share it with them and invite them in. See, and that's a better way of looking at it too. You're inviting people in. It's not stream of ads, it's organic posts. So I'm living out loud. It's not cut and paste without personalization. That's another thing. How many of you have gotten, even from your own line, how many of you have gotten just these like private messages that you knew were just clipped and pasted to like 1 million people, and you're like, ew, why would I want to join your group? I don't feel anything, there's no connection here. You clearly sent this off to 7,000 of your, you know, people that you just saw. How many of you have even gotten posts from people that you knew they hadn't even read your Facebook wall to see that you're a coach? Have you ever had a poaching conversation with somebody on Facebook and you're like, really? You didn't see that it says Beachbody Coach on there? Be personal with people. Not adding to events or groups without an RSVP. Talk to people. Don't add people to your Pampered Chef party unless you ask them. I understand and I get, we want to invite people, we want to let them know about the events, but it's just like Super Saturday. We had at least 100 people here today, if not more. Why? Not because I went out and was like, hey, come to Super Saturday. I didn't saturate things. We presented and invited. It's not the product before the person. That's salesy. We don't want that. We want to be genuine and we want to be honest. So how to properly form prospects. 80% sharing of your life, 20% Beachbody fitness and third-party tools. Remember, they've given us all of the marketing. I don't have to videotape myself doing P90X2. I can send them a professional video. Use those third-party tools. Don't be afraid to use them. You know, don't you like to look at like fancy-looking videos? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Ask open questions, not closed questions. Don't ask yes or no questions. Ask open-ended questions that get that person to talk. One of my favorite things to do in the supermarket, it's a little game that I play, I look for people's hats and shirts and clothing that has logos and labels on it that I identify with. And then I go strike up a conversation with them about whatever it is that they're wearing, because clearly if they're wearing it, I would assume anyway that they like it. They're not just wearing it, you know. So you strike up a conversation with them about that. What have you done? You've invited them to be a friend. Now you've invited them. Don't just hand them a business card. In fact, I don't use business cards. They're not going to contact you. Ask them for their contact information and if it's okay for you to text them, or if it's okay for you to Facebook them, or if it's okay for you to invite them. Because most people aren't going to say no, right? Listen more than you talk. That's a big one. That's hard for most of us, especially when we are really excited about things. Ask questions of people. Find out who they are. Find out who your audience is. Who are they really? Again, don't make assumptions about them. We make a lot of assumptions about people, right? And we're trained to do it. We're taught to do it from a young age. When most of us were my son's age, 12th grade, 7th grade, 12 years old, 7th grade, how many of us were actively taught to stereotype and judge? We had cliques in school, right? You could probably still name off the cliques, right? You remember all the names of the cliques. Depending on how old we are, and I'm not going to date myself, but you know, find out who your audience is beyond all of that. Don't stereotype people. What do you want to know about them? Show an active interest in people. If I walk up to someone and all I'm doing is trying to find an in, they're going to sense that, right? That's that used car salesman technique. None of us like that. What do you want them to know about you? What are you willing to give to get? Now, as a therapist, we're trained only self-disclose if it's okay, or not if it's okay, but if it is right for the person that we're talking to. So if I go into a therapy session with somebody and I'm just talking about myself and my family, that's inappropriate. That's not therapy, because I'm not there for them, I'm there for me. But if I am sharing bits and pieces about myself to encourage them to open up about themselves, now what is it? It's an exchange. We've now entered into an exchange, a communication between us. Disclosure should be for their benefit and not for yours. You'll get something out of it, but not validation or justification for yourself. How to properly form prospects. Living out loud is not the same as oversharing. Be careful of that. Remember, check my time here, that this is not about what you think they need, but about what they think they need. So make sure that you find that out. Use cues and body language and words to discover the underlying motivations so you can speak to that person's wants, needs, and desires, right? So that you really find out, okay, you want to look better naked, why? That's my favorite question is why. Why? Why do you want to do that? Oh, really? Why do you want to do that? Oh, well, why do you want to do that? See how each level is getting closer and closer, deeper and deeper down to that underlying. You want to dig deep. You know, as a personal trainer, we have to go very deep. As a therapist, I have to go very deep. People don't want to disclose that stuff. They'll tell you all about all these things, but they won't tell you about this. And this is what's causing them to have the problems. So you need to identify that. And then don't disregard old relationships. You never know who might come to you or back to you for help in the future. And this is a big key because a lot of times, as a coach, especially when we start off, we expect it to be easy. It's just going to be like this easy, people are just going to like fall in line. And you know, some of my most important connections with people did not happen until my second year in the business. I have a great story of a gal who was a friend of mine through friends on Facebook, and I, you know, had this whole, like I was peeking on her basically, and I had invited her to a challenge group, and she railed me. Private message, just up and down, said that, you know, how dare you ask me for money. I didn't ask her for money, but, you know, it was the implication of this program, and it's going to do wonders for you, and all this other stuff, and Shakeology, and blah, blah, blah. And she, like, basically said, I would defriend you, but I don't do that kind of thing. I was really upset. I took this very personally, and I was very upset, but I knew that I had to learn a lesson from it. And so about 3 weeks later, I see a post from her. She's so excited because she has purchased 10 pole dancing classes. To this day, I want to ask her 3 questions. How much did the pole dancing classes cost? How many of them did you go to? And did you like them? But I don't. I don't even go there. In August, she came to me and said, I'm ready. I called her, because I want to talk to her, because I do that. I want to have that conversation with her. So I called her, and I started to apologize to her. I am so sorry. I got half of the sorry out. She said, stop. You have nothing to apologize for. It was all me. So we took about 5 minutes of that girl. No, it was me. No, it was me. No. Oh, I love you. Okay. So, you know, but we opened that dialogue. She has lost 34 pounds on 21-day fix since November 5th when she got the program. Time. It takes time and it takes relationships. Both she and I could have shut that door. And I think to myself now, looking back, how many people did I chase off? How many of those D-friends on Facebook didn't reach back out to me again? How many of those D-friends on Facebook 3 years ago or 2 years or yesterday, how many of them were because I did something that shut that relationship off? I need to be constantly aware of that. And it's not always me, because it isn't ultimately you. It's them. She was right. But if we don't leave that space open, if we don't give them a choice to have a relationship with us, then we've shut that door, and we'll never help them at that point. So follow up regularly and forever. If you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. And that's really the key to it. How many of those of you who are successful coaches in this room right now know that in your heart because you've seen it? Because you've lived it. And how many of us who've been around for a few years have watched a lot of coaches come and go and not stick with it because they didn't have that patience with themselves or with other people? Change is not like that. Again, I'm not selling you something that I can hand you a product and you're going to go off and, you know, use it, soap or shampoo or lotion, potion, whatever. I am providing for you the way that you can make the changes to change your life. And that's really it. And that's what's different about sitting in this room as opposed to sitting in a room full of Pampered Chef people, which I was a Pampered Chef person 5 years ago. And sitting in a room of Pampered Chef people is totally different. Love the product, don't want to sell it. I don't want to go to people's homes and cook food for them and stuff. I want to help people reach their goals in life. I quit a 6-figure job working for a hospital because I believe that this is what's going to get me where I want to be better than that was going to get me where I want to be. So all those letters after my name, people ask me, you're a mental health counselor, you have a master's in psychology, you have a teaching certification, you could go teach anywhere, you could do whatever you wanted to and have a safe, stable job and not have to worry about it anymore. Why is it that you're doing this? Why Beachbody? Why do you want to go sell P90X to people? And I say, wait, stop. I'm not selling P90X to people. I'm enhancing what I did from before. I am creating and building relationships that I can't create as a therapist, that I can't create as a teacher, that I can't create in those ways. Because I can't get to know people like that. I have to be this strict professional behind, I'm a psychotherapist. You sit on the couch that way, and I sit over here with my pad, and I write, and I make you feel uncomfortable and bad about yourself. No, that's not. It's about relationships. It's about building relationships. And the cool thing about this is that you don't have to have all those letters or student debt behind your name in order to be a successful coach in this business. You just have to have a drive and ambition to want to do all of those things. And that's another thing that's revolutionizing. And I'll leave you with this thought. With that same thing in mind, I was asked, why Beachbody? Why don't you go out, why don't you create your own company? You're a good public speaker, you're a good teacher, you do all these things. Yeah, I know that. I could. But I don't want to because I have found a way to have other people in my life that are trainers, that are nutritionists, that are scientists, who help me with the product piece of things. But what I also have is I have a community of other coaches that are already plugged into the system, that are already plugged into the network, that are getting to know each other, that are building those relationships with each other. I also have the opportunity to go on trips with them. If I create my own company, I'm on my own. You're not on your own. Part of the reason I stepped into this role, I don't get paid for this role. In fact, this role takes me away from earning money in my own business to a certain extent. But the reason why I do this is because this plugs me in to you guys, which then helps me get energized to go help the people that are building my business, if that makes sense. It's the give to get. It's those relationship building. So I'm going to give you guys some homework. My homework to you is, I want you to get to know 5 other coaches, at least, that aren't on your team, that are not in your downline, upline, sideline, reverse line, whatever. Get to know them as friends. If you want to plug into the Sacramento Market Council and help us and, do some events, we would love to have you. If you want to learn how to do this in your own community, ask us. We'll be happy to help you do that because we want to spread that. But those are those relationship building. Practice on each other so that you can go out in the world and do that with other people that you don't know, that you've never met before, and make those connections and make those relationships with each other. Because if you can't get to know each other, if you cannot be friends with every single person in this room, this is the easiest crowd you've got. Honestly. This is the best place to start practicing on. Because we have each other. That's what we got, and it's a beautiful thing. And I want to thank you guys all for being here today, and for being a part of Beachbody, and for helping not only to save your own life, but to save other people's lives, because I mean, I'm just telling you, from my sitting here right now, looking out on this audience and seeing these faces, I mean, I'm floored by it. I honestly am. I mean, where else are you going to be able to have an opportunity to see a group of people that are helping other people, and that may have gotten into this, you know, completely by accident or on the side? I know that I'm standing here today. Statistics are that women with eating disorders, average life expectancy is about 35. I am 42 years old. I would be dead right now if I weren't Beachbody. I know that in my heart. And that I'm standing here looking at you guys right now is such a beautiful thing. Get to know each other, learn each other's stories, learn your own story, get to know who you are, and we got a workout to do, right? Who stayed?